Um, your group in the Northern Elders Forum was speaking about the state of the nation, some of the issues the challenges the country is facing right now. But if you look at the constitutional amendment from yesterday, does any part of it give you joy? Devolution of power, setting up a state security council, several issues, local government autonomy, independent candidacy. Which of these areas give you some kind of joy?
I have to say, first of all, we need to be careful. This is a process that we haven't seen the end of. And I'm afraid, particularly going by recent experience, the 8th Senate, it's too early to even pass a verdict on even those things that you might think represent progress or retrogression or indifference or just pure crass selfishness. These amendments have to go to state assemblies.
Absolutely.
And that's where you see how powerful governors are. And that's where you see some of the defects in the Constitution. Not so much in the Constitution, but in the way the political process works against the wish of the Constitution. You have state assemblies, which are supposed to enjoy sufficient autonomy to look at these amendments as the Constitution provides, decide whether they represent an improvement in the manner in which Nigerians are governed or not, vote on them, and then send them back to the president. But because governors have literally pocketed legislatures at the state level, what is likely to come out is 95% of what the legislators will agree will be what governors want. This is what we saw in the last Senate. A lot of the amendments that you've seen debated yesterday, assented to yesterday or rejected, we saw in the last
Independent candidacy failed at the level of the state's assembly voting.
Well, again, those are some of the issues. When you address issues that represent positive improvements in terms of leadership selection, that's where you see the crass selfishness of the people holding power. They look at themselves as the beneficiaries or the losers of any amendment rather than the Nigerian people. We are running a democracy that is working for those who will power, rather than the people who put them in place. So, again, like I said, it's too early to pass a verdict. This still has to go to state assemblies. They would have their say, but more importantly, governors will have their say. What will come back is likely to be a small percentage of what has been assented to. And then it comes back to one person, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who has all the powers in the world to look at it and say, I like this, I don't
I'm
like
not
this.
sure the president has the power in constitutional amendment. If it comes back from the
He
from
does
the state.
have. He has to assent to
In the constitutional amendment?
Yes, he has to.
Oh,
that's my understanding of it.
No, I think from the 1999 Constitution,
Well,
Section 9 does not give, except if we are to do with legislation. But for constitutional amendment, I think it's after the states, then it's ratified.
All right, fine. I will yield the ground on that to you. I'm sure as you might have stronger basis to stand on that. The bottom line is that the people who would have the final say, if it is the state assemblies, are likely to see what the governors want to see in terms of the amendment. We saw this.
So we are not out of the woods.
Including rejecting clauses that give them powers. This is the most ridiculous thing that went back. In the 8th Senate, an amendment went through the two chambers of the National Assembly, an amendment that would have given them direct access to their resources. And what came back from the state assemblies was rejection. And you've just seen the Supreme Court squash Executive Order 10.
Yeah.
This was an attempt to bypass a procedure that the president himself knows would have been killed by governors, because governors have state assemblies in their pockets. So the flaw in our Constitution is that it designs a democratic system that is actually the hostage of a political process that works only for the led. Our leaders, our democracy is a government of the powerful, for the powerful, but by the powerful. Nigerians have very little say. When you look at the whole versions, sections of the Constitution that have been passed, you see a mishmash. But what you see basically is a huge amount, a coalition of interests around the interests of those who currently will power. I will take just 2 or 3 for you.
Just a moment.
Yeah.
Let me take this commercial break and we come back to you because there's still loads and loads to talk about in all of this. At the end of the day, you as a citizen of Nigeria, you are at the receiving end of all of these laws because it guides the way and manner your lives are being administered by the people in power. So we'll take a break, and when we come back, these two elder statesmen will be giving us perspective on the way forward for Nigeria. Dr. Baba-Ahmed is still with me. The spokesperson of the Northern Elders from in Lagos is Dr. Chief Ayo Adebanjo. And Nigeria 2023 and fixing the nation through the Constitution takes our attention. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone. We have been speaking with Chief Ayo Adebanjo from Lagos. He's the leader of Afenifere, a socio-political group of the southwest region of Nigeria. And Dr. Baba-Ahmed is the spokesperson of the Northern Elders from these two elder statesmen have been speaking their minds on the state of the nation in respect of the new laws that we are expecting. Constitutional amendment. We'll also be speaking about the Electoral Act, and we will talk about 2023 because we need to talk about those who want to lead this country. So let me get back to Dr. Baba-Ahmed. And I look at this, you were going to mention two things before we went on that break.
Yes. First, let me apologize. I was confusing legislative legislations with the constitutional amendments. I apologize, and I thank you for the correction. The point I was making, there are some key clauses that would have added substantially to, in terms of improving the quality of the Constitution and the leadership selection. One of them, tragically, was the rejection for setting aside some percentage, 35%, of the elected positions for women. Now, this is not, for a country like Nigeria, the level of underrepresentation of women in key positions and decision-making is tragic, is really tragic. We've reduced women only to the role, basically to the role of voters. Now, the political system has reduced everybody else except the people that we elect as spectators. We are only relevant for the purposes of elections. After that, the people we elect run away with the power and do what they want with it. But I was particularly saddened by the rejection for that.
It's not only that, it's all the five.
Yeah, every gender-based amendment was rejected. It was as if you had a legislature that was waging war against women.
And you saw the anger in the Minister of Women Affairs.
I saw it,
said, look,
and I saw it. It wasn't
it's as if that the lawmakers hated or hate women.
Well, I don't know about hating, but I
mean, that's how she described it.
Yeah, I saw what she said. You have an extremely self-centered set of legislators. There are people who think any concession made to a critical group, like women, is power they lose. They read themselves into all these amendments rather than the interests of the public. And look, if you don't widen the scope for leadership selection, if you don't allow, in one way or the other, greater number of young people and women to emerge through the process, how else do you change the quality of leadership that we have? We currently have quite possibly the worst type, collectively, we have the worst type of leaders that have ever governed this country, both in the executive arm and in the legislature. And I don't want to say anything about the judiciary, but if you hear what people say about the judiciary, you would know how bad this country, in what state we are. How on earth, when you listen to elders like Chief Adebanjo, who thinks only a revolution, because that's what it amounts to. If he rejects in its entirety a constitutional amendment, and he rejects the Constitution as the basis of what the nation stands for, it means obviously he's saying, the only thing that will satisfy me is a revolution. Now, who's going to lead that revolution? On the other hand, you can address substantially issues that relate to restructuring, issues that are vital to improving the quality of our electoral process, issues that affect key categories, women, young people, poor people, voters, how much power, how much responsibility and power do voters have over the people who they send to Abuja to amend the constitution, for instance? Virtually nothing. We had hearings. Thousands and thousands of people participated in this. A few legislators sat down, sifted through this, decided what they thought was important, listed it, debated it, and now brought it out yesterday, and you saw what happened. A lot of very key clauses suffered. And we haven't seen the end of this. I emphasize this. We haven't seen the end of this.
Because it's still going to the States.
If there's any Nigerian that is genuinely interested in making sure that we salvage something real, they need to talk to our legislators at state level.
Let me quickly say this, because before I go back to Chivaya Debanjo, I'd like to get your view. Section 7, Section 8, and Section 9. These are areas that up to today, we saw the battle between Tinubu-led Lagos state government and Obasanjo-led federal government, the AG Lagos case and the AG Federation on the issues of local government creation. Since 1999, we've not been able to create one local government. Not even a state. Almost all from 12 states up until 36 states were created under the military government. And if you look at it, boundary adjustment, almost difficult. These are areas that the Constitution makes it extremely... Land Use Act. NYC. These are areas that are definitely very, very, very difficult to amend. And so if Chibayo Adebanjo is of the opinion to change, I'm not even sure the Constitution even gives you the leverage or the permission to be able to go into tinkering with changing the Constitution. So, I mean, if people fought the Constitution, what is the way out from your own point of view?
I think the starting point would be elect people there who have enough respect for the people and the Constitution to say, listen, this is what we have is a monster. The 1999 Constitution was created virtually to make it impossible to amend. You cannot have, in a dynamic, developing country like Nigeria, you tie up the Constitution and make it virtually impossible to amend. This is what is feeding all this kind of rhetorics that people think are crazy. We don't want the Constitution entirely. You have to have some Constitution. And how you can have a Constitution purely on the basis of the way Chief Adebanjo wants it, as opposed to how somebody else in another part of the country wants it, without necessarily creating some kind of consensus, I don't know. But the bottom line is, we need to address those things that make it virtually impossible to amend this Constitution in key areas. And the way to do it is to elect leaders, presidents, governors, legislators, people who believe the only way Nigeria can make progress now is to address the fundamentals of this Constitution. And one of them will be to make it relatively easier to amend, number one. Number two, if you can amend it, find those things that represent priorities in terms of amending it. The nature of the federal system.
Are you disappointed? If you look at it, I'm asking this in the premise of, look at the issue of security, which you will say perhaps is the most challenging issue in this country. Do you think that it's any area that directly tackle or try to solve the problem of security in the amendment process?
Not in these amendment processes.
Are you disappointed?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, they don't like saying this thing. State governments literally fund all security agencies. You talk to any governor, if they're going to be honest with you, they will tell you. When there's no pressman around, when people like you are not around, they will say the truth. I'm a member of the 2022 committee, and I believe I have the leverage to say this. And when we locked ourselves up in Lagos, and we had a number of governors who were free to speak, what they said was absolutely shocking, even for people who think they know what is going on. They literally they fund the military, the police, the paramilitary agencies, everybody. Now, if they run the security agencies, you have to ask yourself, what is the role of the federal government in all this? Federal government will tell you, oh, we're buying weapons, we're buying this. Something is wrong. Now, if people are spending all this money, governors, in supporting the security infrastructure of this country, shouldn't they have some responsibility in terms of actually saying, this is the way we want our security to be done? Should it be a favor? Look, people hold them responsible. They spend huge amounts of our money, and if you just contemplate the level of corruption. If you have a corrupt governor who just wants to take billions and billions of public funds, all he needs to do is to say, I spent it for security. Who the hell, I'm sorry about my language, but who is going to find out and say it's not true? Federal government says it's spending billions or trillions on security. Governors say they are spending billions on security. The military says we're under-equipped, we're under-capacitated, we're undermanned. Police says we don't have anything. Governors say, where is the money I gave you for petrol yesterday? Police said it never got to us or we can't move anywhere. Something is wrong.
Terrible.
You need to address federating units the way federal units properly run. And one of the ways they run is that they must assume some responsibility for their own security.